Adam Taxin starting off this Monday broadcast as usual with Mike Closer, whom you can find on Facebook at The Best Closer, on Twitter at The Best Closer, and especially on Periscope at The Best Closer. Or no, that's just at The Best Closer. The extra ad is for Twitter. He does an early morning show on Periscope. And this is actually take 2 because I screwed up the recording of our first effort, so I'm particularly appreciative that he's willing to work with me on this because that was kind of inexcusable. But Mike, thank you for coming back, and I have some idea what we're going to talk about because we already did like a half hour ago.
Well, yes, you do. You have some insight to that. We've all made those same mistakes. Believe me, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. So, where do we begin? I think first thoughts and prayers to all of those dealing with what they're dealing with in Texas.
Yeah, of course.
It's quite devastating to some of the followers. Personally, I know a couple of them that lost their homes in particular, and it's quite bad. And what's worse is the fake stuff being tweeted about, talked about, as if President Obama's down there serving food to the homeless.
Right.
When it was back in 2015 when he was doing that for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and I don't blast Obama. He's not the one who sent out that stupid tweet. He wasn't there, and I don't blame him for not being there. Who the hell wants to get caught in the middle of a hurricane when there's probably very little he could do? They don't need to be serving food to the homeless right now. Actually, that should have tipped people off. Why would he be serving people food rather than evacuating people if he's going to volunteer at this point?
That's right. And doesn't he give enough to all of those that are currently on the Democratic plantation anyway? I think he's given quite a bit.
Yes, that's true. But, I'm just not faulting, of all the many things I can fault Barack Obama for, I can't for not wanting to get in the way of a Category 3 hurricane,
True, but something we can point out is that President Trump did lift Obama's ban to give local police military equipment, and that's something that's quite needed with all the Antifa stuff going on and then some.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's Houston related so much as around the country, but give some more insight on that. First of all, is it applicable to Houston in any way, or not really because it's too soon? But what do you think the implications are for Antifa?
Well, first with Houston a little bit, there's a lot of looting going on, and some of it's quite severe, and I'm sure you're starting to see that. Now, in Texas, you don't have to worry a lot because there's a ton of gun owners like there are in the United States, and they certainly defend themselves.
Well, you could say that about Louisiana, and there were still looters, and if people were evacuated from an area, there aren't going to be any gun owners to defend themselves, but of course, you don't know if people are still in the area, and you're taking your life in your own hands if you're a looter, I would say. I mean, Texas and Louisiana gun policies are probably pretty similar. It's not like going looting in, say, Connecticut or something.
Sure, but by the way, the problem just isn't giving them the military equipment. That's a nice thing to be able to give when they weren't getting it before. But if mayors are telling local, police chiefs and or sheriffs to stand down,
exactly,
that's the position we're in. So if they're told to stand down, they're sitting idly by when these things happen.
And we saw that in Berkeley yesterday.
So Berkeley, I think we've seen it in so many states that it's nerve-wracking.
Charlottesville.
Yes. Baltimore.
Yep. And it tells you something. I mean, look, these take your life at risk if you want to do something in a liberal area. Eventually, the term is good, productive people aren't going to want to be in liberal areas. I know, among other reasons, I love the fact that here in Northeast Florida, I don't really deal with liberals too much. Sure, they're there, but in day-to-day life, I don't have to deal with them, really, because I think the average person tends to be right of center in this area of Florida, for the most part.
I would think, especially where you live. Where I'm at, it's a mishmash, but living in the hills, I don't encounter a ton of people anyway. So I guess we both have that in our advantage today. But online, you and I see it on a minute-by-minute basis, and it's hard to escape.
I mean,
for sure. But
yeah, go on.
Yeah.
No, you go on.
I was going to say, the fight from the streets to the fight to the ring. And on my show and on another show, I picked Mayweather to win in the 10th round by KO. He won by TKO. And it was a mismatch to begin with. It was an easy mismatch. They should have let McGregor been knocked out, and he even said he should have been able to continue so he could end up on the mat,
I picked, I didn't pay attention to it, but I am interested in it. Like, what was it? He couldn't kick or something? He had to use boxing rules when he was facing a top boxer? I mean, how did anyone think he had a chance?
He had no chance. And by the way, he does have a few good jabs. He does. He's a tough you-know-what. But it was a mismatch just like it would be if Mayweather entered his octagon. It would not be any different.
Now, do you Do you remember Rocky 3? Didn't Hulk Hogan
I do.
kind of kick Rocky's ass in, or I guess he was
Right until the
Thunderlips in
end.
that one.
Until the end, at Thunderlips. And at the end, after Rocky was thrown out of the ring, he came back on the ring without the boxing gloves and took down and lifted up in the air Thunderlips and threw him down out of the ring.
So he beat him by out wrestling him rather than by outboxing him? I mean, one would think you would stick to your game.
Yeah, a little mix at the end there, but it was for movie.
Yeah,
fandom,
Rocky was never all that
good.
believable anyway, including Rocky being a heavyweight.
What's more exciting is that the fact that he actually wrote that screenplay and got it on the big screen. That's the biggest fight of his career.
Well, Rocky
that actually
won.
Turned out to be.
Yeah,
that's correct.
My problem with Rocky 3, by the way, is, people throw around racism all the time. I thought that movie actually was kind of racist. In the sense that we were made to assume that Clubber Lang, the Mr. T character, is bad. I'm like, he's bad. He's black. He's intimidating. He has a mohawk. We're supposed to think he's bad, but okay, so while Rocky was beating up people for the mob, this guy who presumably, I think they said so, grew up very poor, devoted his life to being the best boxer he could be. But we can't have that, and he wanted a title fight with Rocky. But that makes him a bad guy? Hello?
So they made him the villain, but you did bring up a good point. They did turn him into the villain, but actually Rocky was the one dabbling.
I mean, Rocky was very arrogant. Mike, am I losing you here? What just happened? Oh, all sorts of technical problems today. All sorts of technical problems today. I lost Mike. How do you like that? I got Mike back. How do you like that? Mike. No? We're keeping going here.
Adam.
Hey, okay, we're back. I ad-libbed while you were gone there. We were on the subject of Rocky 3. And, yeah, and Rocky was very arrogant at the beginning. I know he's a hero. We're supposed to love him, especially if you're from Philly, or the Philly area where I'm from. But, yeah, okay, I think we see eye to eye on that one.
Yes, we definitely do. But we segued from the Mayweather fight. It was a mismatch to begin with. It was just a money machine. And it did bring in a ton of dough, though. They did accomplish what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was intriguing to watch.
Yes, I enjoyed it. I enjoy all boxing. That's just me. I'm a sucker to watch every fight that's possibly on, so it's something I do. But anyway.
If anything, I watch football and baseball, but I don't even watch much of them anymore. It's just what do I do with my time thing, though I am enjoying seeing, the numbers the Dodgers are putting up, and also this guy on the Phillies who has hit 11 home runs in his first 18 games in the major leagues, which is totally unprecedented.
Wow. Super strong, and the Nationals are doing really well. And
well, the Nationals are doing kind of well. They're going to win the division. We'll see if they're not better than some of the other national teams that have won, come out of the playoffs. But the Phillies guy is really exciting because they're the worst team in baseball, my favorite team. But I think the Washington Nationals may do it in the postseason. I mean, they have good pitchers, and LA has not shown itself to be good in the postseason. Neither has Washington. Frankly, the Cubs are going to be a problem too.
Don't they remind you of the Capitals also? They typically do well in regular season, and then the postseason comes along.
Yeah, but not the Redskins because they don't do too well in the regular season most of the time.
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, on back to a little bit of news. Let's see, Adam. 500,000 person march in Barcelona against terrorism. That was nice to see, and quite quiet on our interweb, as Shepard Smith would say, the interweb. I don't even know why I repeated what he just said, but there you go.
Did he ever say Al Gore invented the interweb?
I believe he probably did, actually. He does come from a deep left background, and reminds me of someone from CNN with the same comments.
Yeah. At least Al Gore got the term right. But you were saying before in our earlier recording, which I screwed up the recording of, you said that this rally in Barcelona was a little less teddy bears and candles and a little bit more about calling out Islam and the politicians and immigration, which is nice to see. It may be too late for Europe or Spain, but...
I would say it's too late. I feel it's too late, and based on what we see with a lot of the laws that support it, it's too late. But I do like to see people rise up. And by the way, they did not riot. With 500,000 people and little problems versus here with 2,000 people and a ton of problems, it's something to see, I guess, to behold in that area.
And they were, of course, demonstrating against real fascism, which is a real threat. Not that the American Nazis who were there wouldn't do that given the chance, but they're so little of a threat. Islam is a real threat in Europe, as we know.
Absolutely. And speaking of threats, we still have Chuck Schumer spouting off. Chuck Schumer says he wants to disband the Voter Fraud Commission because he doesn't want the real details to come out that have already leaked with the first 5 states that have been recounted. And already the numbers are coming in quite strong of what's going on with the illegal, the dead, and the other types of votes that have been counted. It's 2.34 million in California alone were nefarious votes already.
I like that term, nefarious votes. Yeah, what do you expect from Charles Schumer? I mean, clearly he tried to tie it into Charlottesville, but we know what his agenda is. And vote fraud is a big part of Democrat victories. And it's going to make it very interesting in states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, where they get the cities as so-called vote spigots. It definitely makes things interesting. That's for sure.
It does. And, you know, if they keep following this along, like de Blasio threatening to take down the Christopher Columbus statue, he said he's evaluating this weekend. Well, you can clearly see that most would prefer to erase the history that they erected versus support it and learn from it.
I'm not sure, would most even support the removal of it? And how does de Blasio even get the power single-handedly to remove it? I mean, how does a mayor have that unanimous power?
People keep asking me that question, and a lot of these statues were funded in different ways. Yeah. Some were funded federally, some by the state, some by a county, some by a commission. I don't even know where you began to get the ability to sneak and take one down like Baltimore did in the middle of the night.
Right. I got a big problem with all of this, but it tells you what it's like, just how totalitarian Democrats are. But, you know, maybe if this all shakes out and we have a cleansing, we'll have a lot more of such statues, and we'll be very in your face about it, because it's outrageous to me. It's just outrageous.
It is. A couple more quick items here. The BLMFL, as I call the new football league, is acting a fool. You're seeing it in every angle, from the Cleveland Browns team to individual players posting pictures of police throats being
Well, that was last year with Isaiah Crowell.
Isaiah Crowell and all these things coming up. They're wearing socks showing a policeman being shot at and all this type of stuff.
Who did that? I knew Kaepernick did police as pigs.
Yep, Kaepernick did the pig one, and then he also had one with a gun being pointed at a policeman that he wore last year sitting on the bench.
Now, of course, Kaepernick is no more a part of the NFL than you and I are right now, and that's why it's so hard to be so harsh on the NFL. I think I got some problems with the NFL, but Kaepernick having a job in it is not part of it right now, as upset as Spike Lee may be about that. And it doesn't look like he's getting put on a roster anytime soon. And clearly, he would be a better player than some of the guys on NFL rosters as quarterbacks. But too bad, so sad. And, you know, the drama with that just doesn't overcome the value he would bring by being a slightly better second or third string quarterback. I mean,
and let's not forget, by the way, that teams were growing at an infinite rate financially, where now teams are over their worth. Like in the NBA, you have teams that are worth $2.3 billion, but you know darn well the Clippers are worth barely $1 billion. Same thing in the NFL, and 1%. That's the tip of the iceberg if they act noble.
Yeah, I lost a little of what you said there, but the point with the NBA is how much is Donald Sterling laughing right now with how much in that forced sale he was given. And he should be thanking Magic Johnson, who instigated that whole thing from the beginning, but so much more than the team is worth. And I think the teams have probably peaked in value. And also being in LA, the Lakers were at their bottom. They're clearly the more popular team there, and they're probably on the rise. And maybe not this year and the next year. They could finally be getting better. And the Clippers are nothing, and that franchise isn't worth anywhere near as much as the Lakers. And frankly, the Dodgers are doing so well, possibly setting records for wins this year. And now they have 2 football teams there. He got so overpaid for that. He must be so laughing about it right now. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about that. You know, so that, like you said earlier, I think in our first chat, that sports have played themselves out of our lives in some cases with actually going to the game or funding it yourself as a family. It's not a simple feat.
Right. I mean, I think baseball's probably doing just fine, all things considered. I mean, there hasn't been any drop-off. People are still going to the games. It's not a game you need to watch on TV during the regular season. But I think it's being felt much more in football and basketball, and hockey's always not had quite as big an audience to begin with. But I think football and basketball have certainly peaked. And Tom Brady's going to have to retire one of those years. He's a big star. That's a big deal for the NFL.
Good point. Good point. He is, I think he just turned 40-ish
Yep.
and 40, right? So
Yep.
he's, 2 to 3 years at most, roughly. Who knows? He's fairly healthy, but you're right. That
One injury
thing is
away.
ending.
Yeah, one injury
Yes.
away from end of a career. Who
True,
knows when
true.
that'll occur? He keeps himself in phenomenal shape, but don't think that won't hurt the NFL. I mean, the Patriots being such an obvious top team for so long helps the NFL as opposed to a situation like you've had if you have a different team every year that's showing up.
True, very true. As a, I don't even know how to transition this one for us, but on a good note, as we know, or as you heard about Sheriff Joe, he
Love
was granted his pardon.
Mhm.
And here's the dichotomy, just a quick comment. Obama had 1,715 acts of clemency, 504 life sentences, 212 pardons, and released terrorists back in the battlefield. And President Trump pardons an 85-year-old sheriff with 50 years of public service for upholding his constitutional oath as an officer.
Yeah, and it was only contempt of court, anyhow, that he was pardoned for. I love it, and I love the fact that he's talking about running against Jeff Flake.
Absolutely. Please, somebody run against Jeff Flake. I don't see that as a hard thing to take out, though, at this point, based on the comments and the decisions Mr. Flake has made.
No, he's done. And the nerve of John McCain commenting on anyone else's pardon. We forget something about John McCain. Guess who was pardoned? By Richard Nixon. Yeah. You think the military-industrial complex might have had something to do with it? But I thought he's such a war hero. Why would you need to? Why would you need to pardon a modern-day George Washington or General Patton, given the way he talks about his military career? Why would you need to pardon John McCain? Why is that? What was he in trouble for?
Oh, Adam, you're calling out a war hero. Please stop. Please,
Right,
Adam,
such
stop.
a great war hero. such an able soldier and a top performer at the U.S. Naval Academy. Top sailor, I mean, I guess you could say, if it was Navy. Even top flyer, given what he actually did. That was a disaster. But you don't merely need a pardon just for being incompetent. And I lost Mike again. And we'll see what happens now. We're going to keep recording. I don't know what's going on with Mike's phone, but we're going to wrap this up pretty soon.
Well, we got dropped off again.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think. Where are you? Are you on a mountain? You mountain climbing?
I am on the mountain. I live on a mountain, but
okay.
I will put a button on it and say I wanted to transition to say with a real walking hero, Steve Scalise is walking and talking and doing much, much better.
Such great news. What's his prognosis for the future?
They say 5 to 6 months of intense, work and working out of all of his muscle groups and everywhere. But they say he will be upwards of the 90 percentile on all facets and be quite healthy. And I'm sure he's going to do some verbal damage to quite a few people.
And so it's basically going to be an almost full recovery.
That's what it sounds like.
Great
and he
news.
Seems very positive from the comments I heard.
That's such great news. And by the way, even if I did lose you because you're on a mountain, which you are every week and we don't have problems, that's okay because we shouldn't have even been doing this. We should have been fine the first time I interviewed you today, but I screwed that one up. So, we're a very grassroots thing sometimes here at Backlash. And again, I'm not in Ormond Beach in our main studio today. I'm still in Ponte Vedra Beach, which is fine. I like it here. But I will be going back there later this week. Mike Closer has been on with me. You can find him at The Best Closer, whether Twitter or just The Best Closer on Facebook or just at The Best Closer. No, it's just The Best Closer for, what's it called? Periscope, where you do a show every day. Or is it at The Best Closer at Periscope? I don't use Periscope.
That's right.
It's at The Best Closer.
You can say at. That's right.
Mike, great having you on. Thanks for another thing. Great interview, and thanks for your patience with me after I screwed up the first time we recorded it.
My pleasure, Adam. Have a great afternoon.
You too.